All right, hello everyone. Welcome to the Connected Camp Summer of Minecraft webinar. And Summer of Minecraft is a virtual Minecraft summer camp that is being organized by Connected Camps and the Institute of Play. So our Summer of Minecraft team has developed a set of challenges to help kids learn to design, code, and solve problems together in Minecraft. So this webinar is actually a fourth in the series of webinars for educators and parents who are interested in learning more about learning with Minecraft and joining our Summer of Minecraft program. So today's topic is an introduction to running a coding camp in Minecraft, and we'd love for you to spread the word. So if you're watching this, please take a moment to share it with your networks. And for introductions, my name is Timothy Young. I'm one of the camp directors at Connected Camps who help put together some of the coding curriculum and activities that our participants will be playing with this summer, and I'll be your host for today. And with me is Brendon.
Hi, I'm Brendon Trombley. I'm another camp director. I've been helping put together a curriculum, both on the coding side and on the regular kids camp side.
Cool. So before we dive into today's seminar, we'll go over a couple quick details. To everyone who's watching live right now, we welcome all your comments and questions in our Etherpad, and we'll answer them as we go on with our talk. So feel free to just jump in with questions at any time, and we'll be more than happy to answer them. So again, today's webinar is about running a code camp in Minecraft, which is something that me and Brendon have done in the past, and something we've found that has really been an engaging portion for both parents and kids when it comes to running a Minecraft-related, camp activity. And just a really brief overview to coding in Minecraft. There are a number of different ways which you can accomplish this. So I think a lot of people are familiar with the idea of modding in Minecraft, which is altering the gameplay experience in one way or another. And this is usually done by players kind of creating their own tools and their own games and essentially their own mods that they distribute, and people download them and they put them into Minecraft, and they become a superhero, or they add extra administrative tools and things like that. So this is achieved more traditionally in in software development suites, or with more experienced programmers. But there are other mods that actually help support people learning how to code in Minecraft, something such as Scriptcraft, which allows you to use JavaScript within your Minecraft servers, or Minecraft Pi, which has Python capabilities on the Raspberry Pi computer. But what we'll be talking today is Computercraft. And before we jump into more details about Computercraft, Brendon, do you have anything to add about all kind of the plethora of coding options out there with Minecraft?
Yeah, sure. So a lot of the coding options that are out there are kind of abstract.
Mm-hmm.
What they do is, you can kind of do some code that sort of changes the game in some way, either making a mod or just making something happen in the game. But it's not necessarily very graspable in terms of why you're doing it. It's
Mm-hmm.
fun to play with.
Yeah.
So for a kid, it might be oh, this is kind of a cool thing I can do, and then they might put it down after a few minutes.
Yeah.
Computercraft, it kind of gets set apart from the rest because what it kind of gives you a really interesting situation where you can use the coding to solve problems in the game within the game's context. Yeah. And that's really in line with the spirit of Minecraft. You get to, in Minecraft, you're always creating systems to help you collect resources and to solve problems. And so now Computercraft is adding in these tools that use real coding to continue making new systems to sort of play the game in different ways.
Yeah, for sure. And that's not to discount opportunities such as actual programming or coding to create your own tools and games in Minecraft. It's just, at least with my experience, when introducing a really complex topic such as modding to someone who's really excited about coding, it can get a bit frustrating because there's a huge gap in knowledge between I want to make a mod and actually putting one together with all the the complex software tools that are available out there. So I'd like to echo your sentiment. Computercraft is a great way to introduce yourself to programming if you know nothing about it at all. So the Summer of Minecraft coding camp program is going to be specifically using the Computercraft mod. And to go over some really brief details about it, it's a Forge mod. And what that means is you need another program called a mod loader called Forge, which loads the Computercraft mod into your Minecraft client, and then you can start playing around with computers in your game. And it introduces these blocks that essentially are just computers or robots in your game. The robots are called turtles that can automate digging or building or just moving around in your world. And they're all coded, or you can talk to them or script with them with the programming language called Lua. And Lua scripting is not too complicated from any other programming language up there, like if you have an expert who knows JavaScript or kind of any traditional programming language, they'll just be right at home with Lua. Like the only thing you have to learn is just a few syntax quirks here and there. But I think, Brendon, what you said earlier, like the biggest value add of Computercraft is you are coding in the game, right? Like you are not using Eclipse, or you're not using another IDE, or you're not like having a notepad file outside of the Minecraft client. Like this is a computer that exists in the client. It's like a very meta kind of thing, right?
Yeah, exactly. So you're coding within the game to solve problems inside the game. So it's all self-contained.
Yeah, exactly. And a big theme that we're going to be talking about is like really making these examples concrete through this webinar. So like here are a couple pictures. Whoa, excuse me. There's all this words in the background. I'm just getting rid of them. Here are some pictures of like the actual computers and the robots that Computercraft provides with the mod. So on the upper right, okay, you can see my mouse. Awesome. On the upper left hand here, this is the Computercraft Craft OS interface. So actually, the one caveat here is the computers in the game are all command line interfaces. So that means you have to type all your commands into them, which I personally find really cool, even though there's a learning curve, because this is something most software developers have to work with still.
Yeah, it's like old school cool.
Yeah, it's old school cool, and even a bit new school too, because like a lot of the tools I've found that I had to use like on my free time when I'm doing a hobbyist program is still like a command line interface, which is really funny. So what else you can see here is on the top right, there's a turtle. This is the robot, and you can see it's kind of like carrying a small pickaxe on the side of it. It's a mining turtle, so it can help you dig. And on the bottom, that's a more traditional computer block. And to access all of these, you just right-click them, and it brings up the Craft OS interface. And I think, Brendon, something we've talked about before is like the potential for this to really emerge in multiplayer. Like you can walk over to someone's computer and like check out their code. Can you speak more to that and what you've seen that in your experience?
Yeah, so in my experience, it's really interesting how however this mod is built, the way that you can access information inside of a computer. If you're looking at a Craft OS window, like in that top left there, off of a turtle or computer, and someone else comes over and does the same thing, you guys will see the exact same thing, and it'll update in real time. Yeah. So that can allow someone to like look at a piece of code really easily from someone else, even like edit it if you kind of want them to. So it makes the collaborative kind of sharing aspect really simple. Yeah, it's cool. And I also wanted to point out, I don't know if the cool thing about these turtles, those things on the top right, they basically have the capabilities that a player in Minecraft has. They can move through the space, they can build, they can place blocks, they can remove blocks, they can even craft items and detect things around them in a kind of semi-limited way. And so that's where you start to understand that these turtles have the capability to automate any kind of repetitive task that a player might have to do on their own, and that's where you start to get this motivation to want to learn how to use this tool, because it's very tangible how this little robot can help me do stuff in the game. Yeah, and again, like to echo your point over again, like it's just so awesome and so valuable actually to the learning experience that everything about Computercraft is really contextualized to what the player needs, rather than something that's more abstract that's found in more like traditional coding curriculum. To move on, installing Computercraft is a bit convoluted, unfortunately, even though like the in-game implementation is really simple. But to break it down to the most like simple steps, the thing about some mods is they're not compatible with the latest version. So actually, Computercraft is only compatible with Minecraft 1.7.10. And that means you need the Forge mod loader for that specific Minecraft version. We made like a really quick guide that we'll be distributing during the summer, but we also like kind of put it up online just for this webinar. So I think it should be going out in chat right now. If not, it's also in the Etherpad, the link to the installation for Computercraft. So you have to follow it step by step. There are a few tricks along the way, but we try to make it as simple as possible. And if you do have kind of someone who's a Minecraft expert or a mod expert or someone who's just familiar with the game, they're going to be really helpful in getting you up and running. And we're working really hard to make it a bit more of a simple process. But you do need an older version of Minecraft, which everyone has access to if you have Minecraft. You just have to access it through the menus. You need the Forge mod loader for that's one specific version of older Minecraft. And then you need the Computercraft mod, which you can just click and drag into the appropriate folder for you to install the Computercraft mod. So do you have anything to add, Brendon? I just want to make sure I'm not missing anything, because it is kind of a bit of a tricky process to get Computercraft up and running. Yeah, no, those are the basic steps. I just wanted to point out that it's possible in the future that Computercraft will update to a more recent version of Minecraft.
Yeah.
As far as I know, the person who makes Computercraft is generally still active on his project, so
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if sometime in the future there would be a Minecraft Computercraft 1.8 or 1.9 or whatever the current version is at the time.
Yeah, for sure. And I'll also add, like, this is also a really great learning experience too, because the way you install Computercraft mods is how you install almost like all the other awesome mods that people really want to get their hands on. So, you know, if you can make it through this, which I have a lot of faith that a lot of people actually can, they just need to know the steps. You can start, you open up a whole new world of gaming possibilities with Minecraft. So if you've ever had people come up to you and asking you how to install a mod, Computercraft is a great place to start, because from there you can install basically anything else. So yeah, this next slide here, we have a bit more screenshots of exactly what turtles do in the game and kind of what we're aiming for in the Summer of Minecraft coding curriculum. So this is, turtles can place blocks, turtles can dig underground, and you can see here's some of the Lua code that's built into the turtle that you have access to. So, you can have it move forward, you can have it turn right, you can have it dig. Hopefully this code is correct. But
I think you're missing some parentheses in that print line there.
am I? Actually, you can use it without the parentheses.
I didn't know that. I just learned something.
Yeah. But I think parentheses is actually great for consistency, so I did kind of cheat a bit there. But the great thing about these turtles and Computercraft is, like, you're not starting from scratch. The developer of Computercraft actually developed an API, which essentially means he made a lot more complicated code a bit less complicated for new users, so they can just kind of get started right away. So instead of like giving the X and Y coordinates for your turtle, you can just tell it to go forward or turn right or dig right away. So these are really helpful in, like, really getting your feet wet with programming the first time.
By the way, I don't know if anyone who's watching is familiar with the old school Logo computer programming language that a lot of kids, I guess in the 80s, maybe 90s, used to learn how to do some basic code. You used something called a turtle, and you gave it simple commands like turn right, go forward. And so this is very much, I think, intentionally modeled after that. That's why they're called turtles.
Yeah,
even though they're just robots.
Yeah, I knew it had some historical comeback. Historical callback, but I didn't want to go into it without that knowledge. So yeah, that's really awesome here. That's really based off a lot of history in the Learn to Code kind of initiative. So with these screenshots and all that being said, the camp structure that we're looking for, at least for us, is we're hosting a multiplayer server in which kind of everyone can jump in and place their own computers into the world. So not only do you have turtles, but you can also have just like normal computers that just sit and do nothing but have like a redstone input output, which you can people have coded their own games on computers. People have made like password systems on the computers. And that's like obviously one really simple way, or relatively simple way, to kind of get a Computercraft coding camp started, is like you host a multiplayer server that has Computercraft on it, everyone joins, and like Brendon, you were saying earlier, camp counselors can kind of go up to different computers and see what kind of code is in there and help troubleshoot and do Q&A. But there's another method that I've worked with in the past, which is kind of you play together in single player. So if you don't have anyone who could host a server, if you don't have anyone who can host a server, you can have everyone kind of install Computercraft on their own, and everyone can kind of just play together. And at least at Summer of Minecraft, we're releasing a lot of our coding curriculum for free, so you can follow along even if you don't have access to the multiplayer server for one reason or another. These are just kind of two really simple ways to kind of put it to their camp structure. Brendon, do you think I'm missing anything here, or do you think this is comprehensive? I'm not sure.
Yeah, no, I think it's pretty good. Just it's important to know that when you're doing this curriculum, it's at least in the posted version, you're going to be looking at a challenge and going through the instructions, kind of a little bit self-directed on your own. But there will be counselors available on the server, so that when if you do have problems or issues, or you need help debugging or whatever, they will be available to help you through it. So there's a bit of a combination of facilitated and independent work happening there.
Yeah. Exactly. And to get more depth into how the coding curriculum that we're running is going to look like, and these are also some tips that we would love to share with the community. And if you guys have any feedback in chat, or if you're watching this video later, leave them in the comments. But like a big approach that a big philosophy that we are taking with the approach is to embrace concreteness in terms of giving people goals on learning to code and avoiding all the abstract kind of jargon, at least, when introducing people to it. So I think one concrete example of that would be, we want to frame a lot of these challenges around actual problems in Minecraft, right? Like, we need people to help build this bridge across this landscape, or we need people to kind of dig out this hole for a foundation for a future project. And a big part of our curriculum is using visual examples for beginner and intermediate players. And I think that's an awesome thing about Computercraft too, is like, you see the visual and you see the real world or the virtual world impact of your code like right away in the game. Yeah, so this screenshot here actually shows a turtle from earlier. Like, this is kind of part of the bridge building process, in which you can just start automating these blocks being placed by the turtle here. In terms of like concrete examples, Brendon, is there anything else that you can think of in terms of like structuring the goals around kind of what players would normally be doing in Minecraft?
Yeah, so I mean, one thing to do is simply think about what's a task that a player might find kind of tedious to do, and how can you program a turtle to do it for you? And you kind of couch that within also what from like a teacher's standpoint, what is a coding concept I want my kids to learn, but not just like teach it to them just because. It's more like, well, what's a challenge that I could design that requires them to learn that concept? So if you know what a loop is in code, it's a repeatable piece of code. So how do you form a challenge in which you require the students to use a loop, and then you can teach them a loop, and then now they're equipped with that tool that allows them to complete the challenge. So the bridge building activity is one of those challenges, right? So the looped bit might be, move, place a block, move, place a block, move, place a block. And instead of writing each of those lines of code over and over again, you can couch them in a loop and make that task much easier to write.
Yeah. And on this slide, as you're saying that, on this slide, we originally wrote out, build a wall of code, build a bridge of code. But even then, like, I'm even thinking like these challenges could be contextualized without saying with code, right? Like here, here's a challenge where you had to build a wall with your Computercraft turtle, and you need to do that. And the only way to kind of do that is with code. So they have to seek out the resources, that we provide them to learn to learn the Lua programming language, to learn the syntax and all of that. To accomplish that challenge. And I think a big concern that actually we get a lot, or a big question we actually get a lot, is learning Lua going to help you learn other programming languages, or is it really specific to one kind of syntax quirk or something like that? So do you know the answer to that? Like, is learning Lua just very specific to this one context in the game, or can you apply it anywhere else?
It's any programming language that you learn, as long as it has a certain set of features. We call that like an object-oriented programming language. It can do loops. It can keep track of different features like functions and returns and parameters. Like all of the things that these are all things that most kind of modern programming languages do, and Lua does it too. So by using them in Lua, you're getting that fundamental understanding of how each of these concepts works. And even if they look slightly different from program to program, you're still learning those concepts. And so it'd be very, very easy to pick up how to write the same sort of thing in C++ or in Java or something like that. So any programming language is a gateway to other programming languages, essentially. Yeah,
for sure. And I think orienting the programming challenges around actual Minecraft challenges really kind of drives that idea home. It's like there are multiple ways you can tackle this problem here, and like Lua scripting is one way to do it. If you do choose to use other mods, like Scriptcraft kind of has its own version of the turtle. I think it's called the drone. Don't quote me on that, but it does have its own version of the turtle, but it's with JavaScript, right? But you can solve the same exact problems just with a different programming language, but with the exact same principles as well. I think another thing to add in here is, along with challenges, we kind of have small games as well, like navigate a maze with a turtle, or kind of build a wall to defend against kind of your opposing team with the turtle. So really embedding the challenges to like game-related challenges rather than just like coding-related challenges, like write a loop, write a variable, print something out, I think does a lot to keep people engaged with the coding curriculum.
I mean, things could even get kind of fun and social. Like, what if you programmed your turtle to do its own special dance, and everyone had a dance off with their turtles? Yeah,
exactly. Kind of thing. Yeah. I mean, with all that being said, I think the biggest challenge that I find when developing the coding curriculum is, we're towing a fine line between giving a lot of structure and step-by-step instruction, and also keeping things open for people to tinker and like, kind of discover things on their own, right? Because with code, if we tell someone we need you to move the turtle through this maze, they have to learn what a function is, and they have to learn like what moving forward and backwards and left and right is on the turtle with code. Could you speak to like, at least your approach to kind of, when you introduce structure and step by step and almost like very lectured material and letting people kind of explore and tinker on their own?
Yeah, sure. So I like to start off with, here's the challenge that you're going to complete by the end of this little session. And then I'm going to, so that kind of gives them at least a bit of an idea of what they're going to accomplish. And then from there, usually it goes straight into some sort of lesson around a particular concept. And this is basically the idea that here's a tool that you're going to need to complete this challenge. And I might structure a couple examples so that they see it in action, and giving them like a few of the sort of puzzle pieces. But then at the end, once the full challenge is kind of in motion, once they've learned all of the basics, it's up to them to sort of put those pieces together and kind of connect the dots in the last few moments to get the final challenge completed.
Yeah. And like I would definitely agree, like that designing that final moment where you give just enough information for them to be equipped to solve the challenge, but also leaving enough space for them to connect the dots is like such a huge challenge, I think. But it's also super fun and really rewarding to see that happen. I think I think we just spoke about it just a bit, but like leaving a lot of room for players to tinker with their code, or like even encouraging it by modifying your challenge, right? Like if you modify the challenge, inevitably people have to modify their codes to meet that modification for the challenge. Yeah. So I think that's a really big component that we're really going to try to push for this camp is like giving people space to just experiment. I mean, that's a big part of learning programming too, right?
Yeah, so at the end of every challenge, we're going to be supplying kind of an advanced version of the challenge. So if you want to continue sort of experimenting and learning, here's sort of like an extra challenge that you can do that extends it, especially if you found it too easy or you just have like extra time. Yeah.
And like kind of any programming related or coding oriented tool, there are tons of alternatives, and it really just sometimes comes down to preference. I mean, between you and me, we really like Computercraft, but if you guys want to explore kind of other alternatives, there's Scriptcraft, which we talked about earlier, and I think people really like that because that's with JavaScript, right? And JavaScript is something that's everywhere on the web, and it's a really popular like introduction programming language as well. So Scriptcraft is a great alternative there, though it requires a bit more. I think it's slightly more complicated to get started than Computercraft, but I think it's pretty worth it as well. Starting to use Eclipse to use real Java programming code to get started, like modifying the Minecraft client itself. That's definitely probably the most complex thing, I would think, right? Yeah.
There's a few. I've done it with students before, where you go in and change very small aspects of the program. Just like the speed of a particular character or something like that, or like what drops when you break a block.
Yeah.
As soon as you try to get into anything more complex, that you kind of need to go back and learn the fundamentals of Java and object-oriented programming before you can do anything like substantial.
I mean, I would also say it's a great way to introduce people into the power of programming as well. Like, that's something, what you said, having people just change a very small portion of the code and seeing it react on screen, it really opens up people's imaginations, when they see kind of like a creeper like monster, like zip around the map, but like super high speed, faster than it ever should, or like things dropping out of the sky, or like even texture is kind of changing here and there around the map. But it really lets people see under the hood of how a game was made. And finally, I think another thing that's been really popular is the Raspberry Pi edition of Minecraft. It comes with the Python API, which I think you can talk to. I've played around with it just a bit, but I think it's really cool because it's built in directly into the Raspberry Pi. So as everything you do, you need to get started. I'd say the difference between that and Computercraft is this is really the, if you're putting together a camp structure or a workshop structure, this is really the play together as a single player experience kind of thing with Python, because just the way Python talks to Minecraft on Raspberry Pi doesn't really afford itself to multiplayer settings for one reason or other. So,
yeah. It's got a similar situation, I think, as like Scriptcraft, in the sense that you're sort of writing code on the side, and it's affecting the game as you sort of write the code. In different ways.
Yeah, I think
but it's slightly removed from the game's context, unlike Computercraft. But I think it's not as removed as modding in Eclipse.
Yeah. I was just say. Oh yeah, I think like to articulate my earlier point in more detail, it's like it's a problem in which if you're writing some code and someone else is writing the same code and you're affecting the same thing, it causes a lot of conflict, right? It confuses the computer, or the outcomes aren't something that you particularly find ideal. With Computercraft, that doesn't really happen because everything is kind of self-contained within each turtle or each computer, or at least I haven't ran into any conflicts, or it does a better job of managing those conflicts. Where Scriptcraft and Minecraft and Python for Minecraft and Raspberry Pi, they kind of all talk to the Minecraft game itself, which can cause some conflict. But not to say that they're like any worse or better. It's just like a trade-off, right? Like anything you're using with programming.
Yeah, it's actually something I didn't think of, because in Computercraft you could actually have multiple computers, multiple programs running, and not interfering with each other at all. That's a really good point.
Yeah, I think the strength though of Scriptcraft and the Raspberry Pi version is you're using a programming language that a lot of people are familiar with, JavaScript and Python, and that's really valuable too. Lua, Lua is used. I think the only thing I know it's used in is kind of game scripting, which but it's not as popular probably as JavaScript or Python as well. But as you said earlier, it has the fundamentals of all object-oriented programming languages too. Yep. All right, so I think with that, if you guys have any questions, feel free to drop them in the Etherpad, and we'll take time to answer them. But I'll go ahead and just kind of wrap us here, and if any questions come in, we'll slow down to answer them. So, thank you everyone for joining us today, and we hope you came away with some useful tidbits of information and tips of how to run a coding camp with Minecraft, Computercraft. There's going to be a full recording of this webinar available immediately on connectedcamps.com and also on our YouTube page, which you may be watching on right now. Once the stream ends, this will be a recording through the magic of the internet and YouTube. This is actually one of the final in the series of webinars that we currently have planned, but I think during the summer we'll also have more live streams directly coming from the camp server, so that's something you should definitely check out as well. If you found this conversation helpful, please share it with your networks, and if you'd like to know more about upcoming webinars or more about our camp, sign up for the educator newsletter, and more importantly, like our live streams that we'll be planning for the summer as well. We'll also be developing our own network of educators who will be part of our summer program. So if you're in the Etherpad, let us know who you are, email us through our support line, and apply to become one of our educational affiliates, which is going to be really awesome to participate with during the summer. And with that, thanks, Brendon, for joining me on this journey through the Computercraft code world. And thanks, everyone, for joining us on this webinar.
All right. Thanks a lot.
All right. See you guys.
Bye-bye.